Hi, I'm Greta.
And I'm Claudia. Welcome to Knitters and Critters, where we talk about all things Critical Role and, of course, our own knitting projects.
That's right. This week's episode is called Chasing Nightmares. And that's a pretty good name for this episode, given that we are fighting the Nightmare King, also known as Ira Wendigoth.
Yeah.
That is like such a great last name for an evil person, by the way, Wendigoth. It just, everything about it sounds creepy. I love it.
That's all the description you need.
But anyway, so they're in this like Slender Man little house of horror.
Squidward.
A good old Ira's shop at the bottom of good old Volley's tower. And Ira isn't really too phased to see them. He is not worried at all. He welcomes Chetney and then shortly thereafter the rest of the crew into his little laboratory. Like completely nonchalant and at ease.
That's not good.
No, it's like the biggest clue that they are outgunned.
Oh, yeah.
And like just go home. Like give it up.
Yeah.
Of course our party doesn't know the meaning of the word give up.
No.
And they like demand, well, we're here for Gurge, so give us Gurge. And Ira just kind of laughs. It's like, no, I'm using Gurge right now. I want to share his gift with the world. Referring, of course, to the fact that he's a werewolf. And Gurge later confirms a little bit later on in the episode that he was made to bite like 3 mercenary-type individuals. And Ira has no intention of letting him go. He's having way too much fun. And it's the fun part about Ira that is most concerning because he doesn't really seem like he can be reasoned with. He's just looking to have the most enjoyable or interesting
psychopath.
experience.
I mean, just completely...
Yeah. To the T, top to tail.
Yeah.
So he takes this like interesting blue looking stone and shatters it, and the furniture in the room comes to life. Total callback to episode 1. We've all been wondering for 11 episodes now what the hell was up with that furniture that came to life. Well, now we know. The Nightmare King was behind it. The furniture comes to life, and Ira and his now animated minions are fighting against the party. But our party isn't fighting alone because Gurge gets free and turns into a werewolf. Not surprising. We knew that he was biting people for Ira. But then Chetney turns into a werewolf too. Yay! I lost my shit when this happened because longtime viewers will know that Travis has been dying to be a werewolf since campaign 1, which is like, what, that started 7 years ago?
Yeah.
6, a long time now. Finally, he gets to play a werewolf. It does, like, put to bed my theory that he was going to be Oshad Braccio the Anger. No, there's no way in hell that Travis is letting go of a werewolf character. So, Chetney is here to stay. I think we can safely say that. Assuming he survives this fight. Okay, we all know he survived the fight, but it was pretty gnarly. Ira is obviously, like, a really canny opponent.
Yeah.
Because, like, he went after
the
healers, like, right away. Like, Letters gets
just what
turned,
you do. You know?
Yeah. Letters gets turned into a turtle, adorably, and is, like, out of the game until later on when he gets turned back eventually because he takes too much damage.
Yeah.
And then Orem and Dorian both got knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty, like, midway through the battle, but they get saved. They both rolled natural 20s on their death saving throws. Like, when does that happen?
I know.
It
never happened to me.
No. But it was awesome to watch. It was a great battle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Then something, very interesting happens. Ira gets a good sniff of Fern and recognizes her as a Calloway, which apparently is a pretty important family where she's from. And he starts summoning this sickly acid energy, but then he lets go of it.
Yeah, he sighs and looks at Fern.
Yeah, I mean, Fern has been looked at that way before, but not by Squidward.
No,
and
not in like such like a knowing like calculating way.
Yeah,
like she's been looked at like, oh girl, you're weird, or damn girl,
babylicious. Yeah,
but not like doing the math in your head, like, if I attack you, what will happen to me?
What are the consequences?
To know more about Fern's family.
Right?
I need to know more.
Yeah, we really do need to know more. So he takes off via Dimension Door, And, he kind of nods at Fern, like, a creepy guy giving you a nod. It's like, ugh, I need to shower now.
Yeah.
So they take the group, kind of regroups.
But remember, before he leaves, he flicks a switch on his crazy machine, and it starts, like, doing something. Yeah.
Oof.
The entire time I was watching that, I was thinking, someone do a perception check on all that blue stone that he's using, like... Is it that I can't think of the name of the stone, but the stuff that makes the
broomstone?
The broomstone. Is it broomstone? Like, is it all connected? But of course, we don't know yet because they didn't do the check. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, no, it's totally fine. So they get a few papers, to take with them, and they manage to make it out of the tower before it completely explodes. And they head out at the Weary Way Tavern because they really want to find out what the deal is with Gurge and Chetney.
They want to get the backstory.
Yeah, as we all do.
Yeah. God, I loved that scene so much of them, like, running away from the moon tower. It was so cinematic with it exploding at their back and, like, building, like, crashing down around them.
Yeah.
And luckily they did the smart thing and they, like, just got out of town. Of course, I think they were probably spotted a couple times running from the tower.
Of course.
I can't wait for those repercussions to happen. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. They go back to the Weary Way, right? Mm-hmm. To kind of get the lowdown from Gurge. He apparently was once from Wildmount. He was part of this group of monster hunters called the Claret Order, but he got kicked out when he was bitten by a were creature and became a werewolf. And so they kicked him out, which is kind of a jerky thing to do, but it happened. So he traveled to Marquette to find this group of people called the Gorkinai, who are apparently like in a super intelligent band of were creatures. Mm-hmm. It sounds like they kind of like police new were creatures, make sure no one's like willy-nilly infecting people and kind of keep order. So he was with them for a couple years, it sounds like, before he got into a fight with the leadership and then got kicked out. Not we surprised. Yes, we see a trend. It's very much you, Gurge, not us. And he didn't actually have any prior history with Chetney. As, loose and goosey as Chetney was playing with the truth, he was being honest when he said that he left Uthadurn because he lost his job. When he was outside the city in the woods, he just came upon this werebeast that bit him and infected him with the lycanthropy. I think it's a curse, technically, in D&D. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, he goes to Drusar to find Gurge, and through him, hopefully, make contact with the Gorkinai, because he's obviously a very new lycan, and he's still trying to figure out how to handle his newfound
how to control
power.
Things, yeah.
So... unfortunately for Chetney, Gurge isn't really the mentor types, but he does tell Chetney, go find Ajit Dayal. They can probably direct you to the Gorkinai. If you remember, again, back to episode 1 and 2, Dayal, the last name, also Dayal Hall. Mm-hmm. If you remember when they went to break into that textile, it was because shipments to Dayal Hall were going missing. So, like, just, I'm connecting all the dots on my murder board.
Mystery writer. Thank you.
Taking notes. That's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Chetney does, for whatever it's worth, he apologizes to the group for lying, but he does say that he wants to stick with them for the time being. So that's good. It seems like we finally have a party coming together.
Yeah.
At some point, he would like to follow up on the Gorkinai, Ajit Dayal kind of angle, because the cycles of the moon obviously can affect the change that he goes through, particularly the red moon Ruidus. Apparently that can have a really unpredictable effect on the change of a werewolf, and I only bring that up for two reasons. Ruidus will be at its zenith within a few months of this, and also it becomes important later in this episode, so keep that in the back of your mind. So they all go to bed, they wake up the next morning, typical, well, we blew up a tower, what do we do now? As one does. Ashton, again, brings up the conversation that they had last episode with Gianna Hexam. And I gotta say, getting out of town seems like it would have been the wise decision for them to make. Yeah. But it's, and the Heartmoor Hamlet doesn't seem like it's all that far away, maybe like a week's travel.
Yeah.
But they really don't want to miss the ball.
I mean,
I have priorities.
Right?
So they go where they always go whenever they're wondering what to do, to Estros's house.
Daddy.
Yes, they run to Papa. And Estros obviously is very interested in what the F happened last night at the Moon Tower. And importantly, he recognizes the name Armand, as in Armand Tresci, same family that seems to be behind so much of the dangerous occurrences that have been happening in Drusar. He suspects that Armand may be one of the members of the Quorum, which are like the secret ruling body of nobles. That kind of rules over Drusar. But as the group was talking about it, they kind of theorize, well, maybe being one of the leaders isn't enough for Armand. Maybe he wants to be the only leader.
Right.
And so he's hired the Nightmare King and is orchestrating all of these events as a way to destabilize the city. And they theorized that he was going to bring in the Paragon's Call, which I think is interesting and definitely a possibility. But I was remembering on the drive up here, like way back when they first met Estros, he was saying that he feared the Ivory Syndicate may be corrupting the Shandai Quorum. And we haven't heard anything about the Ivory Syndicate in several episodes. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. What if it's the Ivory Syndicate pretending to be the Paragon's Call? I mean, Gurge didn't know who exactly he bit. He just knew that he did it on Armand's orders, basically. So, that's just me diving into my little fan theories. We'll have to wait a couple episodes to see how that all shakes out.
I'm excited for the ball. I can't blame them.
It's going to be so good. Yeah. I'm just like waiting for them to screw up enough, though. Here's my second cold shot. They're going to go to the ball. They're going to make a big old mess. They're going to leave the city to go deal with the Hartmore Hamlet stuff. And when they get back, Estros is going to be dead.
Not Daddy.
I just think they depend on him too much.
Yeah,
and that is going to take that away from him.
He's kind of a crutch.
Yeah.
They run to Daddy.
Yeah. As much as I love Estros and all of his baking goodness,
I know. We'll
I just
have to
worry
have some
that
baked goods
bad things are in store. Mentor characters never survive in fantasy. If there's one thing I know, it's fantasy writing.
I know.
But they get a lot of other stuff done in this episode after leaving Daddy's house, right?
They do. They, stop to clean up, thank goodness. We don't want any, Caleb situations here, please. That was, enough stinkiness for,
for several campaigns.
Yeah, truth. They finally, and I'm sorry because that put the final nail on your
my
theories, coffin. They get to meet Ashad Braccio, a.k.a. the Anger. And he, of course, is the man that Orym had been sent to question, and he was in this very, sort of this situation like a coma, because he had been so badly wounded. So he is recuperating. He's actually recuperating in House Loomis. In helping him recuperate is the mother of the Loomis twins who were, killed.
Slain,
and they were students at the Conservatory. And they were studying celestial bodies, and that's the conservatory that Imogen really wants to get into. Yeah. They went to the Hartmore Hamlet to visit a friend, an astronomer named Astani. And that's when they were attacked. Now, from what Ashad says, and has said before, is that when he killed one of the attackers, they melted into this dark goo sludge thing. And he doesn't really have much more information because he was so grievously wounded, but he does point them in the direction of Astani.
Yeah, and it seems like all directions are pointing to the Hartmore Hamlet now. They've got several reasons to go there.
Right.
So it's only a matter of time before they do. It's going to be so interesting. I feel like it's also going to give us a chance to delve into Orym's backstory a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know Liam. He's going to have a tragic backstory somewhere in there. And I just think it's too coincidental that this attack happened on Ashari territory several years ago and shortly after he leaves. So I'm thinking girlfriend, boyfriend, mom, dad, someone must have died in the attack that sent Orym a wander in, because he just seems too duty bound of a person to leave his post as a guard to
so it has to be a pretty strong reason.
I feel like he must have needed a good push to kind of abandon that and go find his own way. But again, these are all questions we're going to have to wait a couple episodes to find the answers to. But speaking of answers, Imogen, thanks to a letter from Eshros, is finally granted access into the Starlight Conservatory. Is that what it's called? Starpoint Conservatory. She's the only one allowed in, but she is given access to the very vast libraries, as well as to an assistant who will help her pull books from the shelves. Now she's looking, unsurprisingly, for research on people who have manifested telepathic abilities randomly, like it seems like she did.
Right.
But she's also looking at the dreams that she has been having, the storm and like the all-consuming rageful power of the storm. It's a very upsetting dream, and she wants to figure out what the deal is with that. And surprisingly, there is research on people dreaming of angry red storms. Apparently, this was a topic of study that a professor, Khadija, what was her last name? Sumal. Was doing a research project on, and about 30 years ago she compiled this group of people who had all been having these dreams of storms, and seemingly like random people from all over the world, not just from the area around Drusar.
No likely connection.
Yeah, and she had like several theories as to why these people might have been having these, group nightmares. One of them is that there was some kind of like psychic or spiritual connection between these people that was being corrupted by fiendish influences. Maybe it had something to do with like solar flares or celestial flares, which seems a little far-fetched. I mean, it's all far-fetched.
Yeah.
But even for this.
Right.
And then the last theory, which I thought was the most interesting, just because we've had so much lunar hypothesizing this campaign, was it has something to do with what she ominously called the corruption of Ruidus, or Ruidus corruption. Again, that's the name of the red moon.
That's going to be at its zenith.
That's going to be at its zenith in just a few months. The rest of the study had been ripped out of this book. So someone had been researching this obviously before Imogen and decided they didn't want anyone else to know what was in there. But there was a list of names in the back of the book that had the names of the study participants. And one name leaps out at Imogen, and that is the name Liliana Tumult, Imogen's mama. Oh. And then the episode ended. I was like, oh, Matthew, why? I know. So much good family drama in this. We get a little bit of Fern backstory. We get Imogen. We get a little hint of Orem's backstory. These next couple episodes, I think, are going to be really interesting. It seems like we're getting close to a good point in the first arc of whatever this campaign is, because there's always several arcs along.
There's the main arc, and
hints of where it could go after they figure out what the corruption in Drusar is. Are they going to go find this Professor Khadija person? Are they going to go figure out what's going on with the attack on the Ashari? Or I don't know. There's so many options of places that they could go. Very excited. Yeah. Well, should we switch track and talk about what's on our needles?
Let's talk about the knitting.
All right.
So I recently finished this hat that was made with...
that hat.
I mean, it's basically a stash buster. I had a bunch of little leftovers.
Heard that term. That's great.
Yeah, so, you get the bunch of little leftover bits of yarn that you don't know what to make with, because it's not enough for any one thing. But this hat is really cool because it uses 2 strands of sock weight yarn, plus a strand of mohair or Suri alpaca, whatever gives you that lovely halo fuzzy, that you can see. Yeah. So I started with 2 little bits and bobs that I had left over, all in the light blue, plus the light blue mohair. Yeah. And then halfway through, I ran out of one and added another one. And the thing about the mohair is that it gives it that haze. Yeah. But it's also kind of a veil, so you can't really tell where one yarn ended and the next yarn was added in. It kind of puts this subtle veil over everything, which is really lovely. And because it's made of 3 different strands of yarn. It's very cozy. It's very, like, I love it. It's
like a little like slouchy, not too fitted. Yeah.
I like it. I'm probably gonna make more because I have a ton of little like burgundy bits and bobs.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
But speaking of burgundy, I see some
burgundy,
burgundy right there.
I was good. I didn't go out and buy egregious amounts of green yarn for that poncho that I'm gonna make soon.
She's gonna make it.
I am using that red burgundy yarn that I got at the local Fiddleheads yarn shop here in my town. It's, let me see again the name of the bake. It's Biches and Bouches. It's La Petite Lamb's Wool in this really pretty burgundy color. I love it. And I am making a cabled hat, very D&D themed. It's one of the Mandy B Designs is the name of the designer, and it's Caleb's cabled hat, inspired of course by Caleb from campaign 2. Stinky old Caleb. And of course I wanted to do a burgundy color because I just don't look good in brown. So I'm really excited. It's like the name suggests, it's a lot of cable work, and
I like all your markers match. I love that.
I am so inept when it comes to counting stitches, and like
I do the same.
Okay,
I do the same.
I'm glad I'm not
every
the only
repeat
one.
like marker.
And this doesn't have like, this repeats like every 4 stitches, but I just know myself, like I'll add a stitch, I'll accidentally drop a stitch.
Yeah.
So like just like
same.
every 20 stitches, I'm like, I'm just gonna save myself 4 years of unraveling this dish. Because I already unraveled it twice.
Oh, no.
I've only been working on it for a week.
Oh, no.
So this may be the hat that never happens and becomes anything.
You know what? You'll finish it by the end of the campaign.
And I think suffering for art is something that Caleb would like deeply approve of. Oh, good old Germans. So yeah, that's what I will probably be working on for the rest of time.
No, you won't. You won't. You have to that poncho.
I know.
To make
that poncho is on my list.
Yeah, it is.
Someday. Well, anything else?
I think that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it was nice chatting with all of you. We will see you next week for another episode of Knitters and Critters. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to tag us in the comments. Be sure to like this video, and as always, subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate all your support. And thanks, guys.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.